Vroom, vroom. Right. This is our engine that we bought from America from Larry. So we thought the other day, before we get too carried away, we ought to just have a look at it inside just to make sure that we've got something we can use. As it happens, it's seized, it will not turn, but having took the sump off, it looks like it's had a bit of use in its life, but there's no damage, everything looks lovely. So we're now going to warm the barrel up and see if we can get the cylinder off number one, and then we'll just work through them. But anyway, we thought we'd make a bit of a film just to show what we're up to, really. And the next step is to heat the cylinder up with propane and see if we can get the barrel off of the piston. So here we go. Ain't got any holes in the piston.
I think that's even going there.
Ain't moved, is it? All right, get the siphon that water out and we'll do it again. Money. Not easy. I don't think it has.
Still, we got a bit of that plastic.
Right, this is obviously going to take a bit of doing, but there's two things you can do here. You can either make up something and drag the cylinder out, and 9 out of 10 times you break something. So other than that, you've got to jiggle at it. You've got to do a little bit, you've got to try a little bit. But one of the things I've previously tried, and it really worked, was this stuff, which is called chrome alley cleaner, and it's like an acid, a mild acid. And I put it down the bores, and eventually we managed to get it to free. So I'm going to try it on this. Luckily, I've got some of these syringes, which when I had cancer you couldn't swallow, so you had a tube and you used to feed yourself with that, which was very convenient actually. But anyway, so I've got a few left over, which is a bit of luck. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put some like that, and then luckily there's a nice gap there. And eventually we'll free it, because we don't want to damage the piston and we don't want to damage the bore. So, you know, I think we've got to jiggle at it rather than going mad and making up some jig where we can drag it out and break everything. So this is what we're going to have to just be patient. But I think that will work. And if it does, that's a tweak for all of you. Right, well, we've had absolutely no luck DC's in the pistons, but I think it's got a lot to do with the old-fashioned oil, because there's no actual rust anywhere. This crank was seized solid. So anyway, we took it all to pieces and we've given it an initial clean with the old steam cleaner. And the only way we could think of putting any pressure on the pistons to try and free them, we're going to put the crank back. So we've cleaned it all up a bit, and we're going to put the crank back, and we're going to put the barrel on, and then we can perhaps work the crank to try and get the rings to DC's. Because it's the only way we can think of actually doing it, because you can't bang the big end and you can't bang the piston, so that's the only thing we can think of. So that's what we're going to do next. But as you can see, it's in absolutely beautiful condition. There's no wear on the big ends or the mains. It's absolutely beautiful. So, you know, if we can get it to clean up, we can get the pistons to free up. I don't think there's going to be any problem with the bores or the piston rings probably, but we can't afford to go mad at it, you know, because you're going to do more damage. So, so that's the next plan really, is to put the barrels on, put some mains on it, and then we can do a bit of this and see if we can free it off. Because we're not having any luck any other way. But actually, very pleased with it. You know, it seems in ever such good condition, but I think it's suffering from old-fashioned oil that turns like shellac. It's, you know, really difficult to get off. We did the crank with thinners. That seemed to do the trick with the old thinners. But anyway, so far, so good. At least we haven't got anything that's horrible. In fact, it's very good, really. Thinners worked so good on that. I mean, that was brown. It looked desperate. And within a few minutes, old John, with a drop of thinners, has got it looking wonderful. So we've now decided to throw some thinners down the bore, because it seems to eat that old oil like no problem at all. So you never know, that might be the answer. But anyway, we just chuck a lot in the bore, so we'll see what happens. But all the valve guides seem in marvellous condition. So I don't know. And the sump is really bad. I mean, it's full of stuff. Make a thing of the sump, Tan. You can't believe how bad it is. Look at that. So I would say it's done some mileage, this engine, in an aeroplane, possibly. I mean, I can't see what else it'd be used in. And painted blue and silver, it looks to me like it could easily been stuck in a sort of museum of some description. But we certainly needed to take it to pieces, that's for sure. Right, this is the Larry engine from America, and I said to John we ought to take it to pieces to see what we got. Well, they were absolutely in there, as you can see. So we put them in Timothy's, what do they call that bath, John?
Ultrasonic.
put them in the ultrasonic bath and left them for a couple of days. And I think it's done a bit of good, but they were still in there. So what we've had to do, we've had to jury rig our engine hoist, and you'll see in the video what we do is we warm it up, put oil down there to get it down onto the rings. But as it happens, although they're absolutely in there, I've managed to get them all out. But the cylinders have they're not beautiful, and I think they're going to need probably honing, in which case I think we'll probably finish up with like 20,000 oversized pistons. Well, that means that we can have some nice modern pistons made with little piston rings, etc. Perhaps even have just a couple of mil on the top to raise the compression slightly. But anyway, that is another time and another deal. But anyway, in a minute we'll walk over, set the last one up, because I thought you didn't want to see them all because it's a bit bloody boring. And hopefully it'll come out without too much of a fight, and you'll see. Right, well, this piston was just as bad as those pistons, and with a little bit of jiggling, I managed to get the piston rings off. I mean, I'm quite confident that if you just clean the bores up, this engine would run, and it'd probably run quite good. So, at the moment, I'm just turning it into something that's not deteriorating, so that when we decide what to do with it, at least it won't be worse, because that ain't going to get better by leaving it. So that's what we're going to do. We're just making it better, really. So we'll go over now, and you'll see how we managed to do it. As it happens, the first two were a nightmare. Me and John spent a whole day getting them out. So we've set up this thing, and we just put the last two cylinders on, and I couldn't believe it. Well, with no heat, we've managed to get them out. So two were difficult, two were easy. They were easy, but you never know, putting it in the sonic cleaner might have done it some good. So anyway, so that's the pistons out. So now what we do, we clean the bores up, and so they can't go rusty, and I'll get all the piston rings, and we'll put the engine back together. But the white metal, the crankshaft, the valve guides, everything is in lovely condition, so it's a good engine, really. I'll tell you what we do, we'll turn it over, Tanya, and you can show them the crank. Lovely crankcase, no damage to the legs, absolutely lovely that. And the crank is in lovely condition. There's absolutely no wear on that at all. That's like brand new. But this engine has definitely done some work, because inside the sump you can see it's pretty desperate. So it's done some miles, but I mean it could have done it before 1920, so all that old oil and everything could have been in there since 1920. So we're lucky, really, and I'm very pleased with the engine. So that's it.